Emek, the legend, the history. One man had the will, the vision to create an oasis in the desert. One man had the foresight and determination to change the valley forever. That man was Rabbi Gilbert Shoham. Gilbert Shoham was born to loving parents in Baltimore, Maryland.
Gil was a very unique kid. He was very bright, very serious. Believe it or not, if we knew of him in his later years, he was always joking, fooling around.
Gil came from a very famous rabbinic family in Baltimore, Maryland. There were generations of rabbis.
He was in the first graduating class of Talmudical Academy of Baltimore.
The guy always came home with a wonderful report cards.
And he enjoyed in his spare time learning Talmud on his own.
Gil had a strong love of learning and would eventually become a star student at Yeshiva University in New York.
Rabbi Shoham was one of the favorite students of the Rav Soloveitchik.
He met my sister in camp. They were both counselors. She was a little younger than him.
Gil and Dottie seemed to click almost immediately. It was just a beautiful relationship.
So I first met him when I was about 10. He married my sister Dottie.
Gil could not have achieved what he did without her. He really depended greatly on her.
She wanted what was good for you. She would tell you what was good for you.
She was a leader in her own right.
Although the yeshiva wanted Gil to continue his studies because they actually wanted to put him on the staff of yeshiva. But instead, Gil went to Montreal. That was Dottie's home. And it was there that he developed to become a rabbi at the Beit HaMidrash HaGadol synagogue.
He was a great public speaker. He was able to relate to people.
He had that kind of intellect. It was so broad, and he had interests in so many different things that we were never at a loss to enjoy our time together.
In the 1950s, the San Fernando Valley was a budding suburban neighborhood.
I remember my father very vehemently saying, "You're going to a desert. What are you doing going there? Why?" And Gil answered, "Well, I want the challenge. Where I am now, it's very easy to be a rabbi. All the people here are religious. I want to go to a place where it's going to grow, it's going to develop."
There was nothing in the San Fernando Valley, and the congregation itself was very small. They barely had a minyan, and it was housed in an old tavern.
The whole North Hollywood community, how it's thrived and it's grown, and I believe it's directly attributed to his vision.
Well, Rabbi Shoham, I loved his sermons, and I used to come every Shabbos to hear him.
And I remember vividly, it was a Shabbos morning when, after davening was finished, we had the artist rendition of what the new shul building was going to look like. And people, I remember, it was like the finest portrait. They all stood up and they wanted to see what the new building was going to look like. And it was a tremendous dream. This is circa 1962. This was a booklet that was printed for the shul fundraising for the new building at the time. This was now what it is, the parking lot behind the shul. This is where Emek was. This was what Rabbi Shoham looked like at the time.
Once the construction of the synagogue was complete, Rabbi Shoham would put his energies into establishing a new Hebrew day school, Emek.
So he took that whole valley and brought Yiddishkeit to it. And nobody could have done that the way he did it.
This little school began with 5 students.
His progressive style of Jewish education would be featured on local television.
On Sunday nights, he would be often on a radio show called Religion on the Line.
With his wife Dorothy and the ladies of the PTA would ensure that the children had a nurturing environment to blossom.
I remember it was not easy to gather the money and to do it, but that never stopped Gil Shoham, the fact that something might be difficult.
Ultimately, we did get a school and a building.
Then at the dedication ceremony, things were homemade. There were these beautiful tile murals up front that Esther Lieberman painstakingly made herself, these mosaics.
It was a big to-do. They closed the street, you know, Chandler.
Rabbi Shoham was master of ceremonies, beaming with pride, and a Boy Scout troop was a whole community event, such a culmination of years of accomplishment.
But despite his efforts, Rabbi Shoham's time in the valley was short-lived.
He tried to build a roof and brought the head, some specialist, Eruv specialist from Israel, exactly how to build the Eruv using the telephone wires, etc. People just weren't interested.
My father wanted to establish a mikveh in the synagogue, but the congregation did not support him in this.
But together with my mom and the architect, they secretly put in the plumbing that then they designed these kind of strangely configured basement classrooms with no windows.
There's also an expression, Ilu lo nafalti lekamti. If I didn't fall, I wouldn't rise.
His willpower would be tested shortly after, when he was diagnosed with lung cancer.
It was 1982. I was a senior in medical school. I was in Israel on an elective.
Met with his doctor, and the doctor says to me, your brother's a sick man. He has about 3 months to live. This was approximately 30 years ago.
When Gil left California, it was a very big loss for California, but it was a gain for Kansas City, Missouri. He brought that charisma, that charm, the building of institutions with him.
He worked with me along when we were developing the School of Shalhevet, and we exchanged ideas continuously, philosophically, educationally. He was just a real, I think, an inspiration to all of us.
In his later years, he would receive a doctorate in philosophy from the University of Southern California.
Where could he use the strength that he had left? And he felt that the best area where he could really be productive was in teaching philosophy.
I never saw a father who had a closer, more loving relationship to his son and wanted to share with him everything, from Torah learning to climbing a mountain.
My father-in-law was brilliant, but truly what I felt from him was that he was a funny, just dad. He was funny, goofy with the kids, he was very affectionate.
Whatever thrill he had at the birth of Stephen was a thrill that he had at the birth of his grandson.
He didn't really force people to do anything. He sort of just taught by example. He did stuff the way it was supposed to be done.
Amek was on his mind during his last days. The last conversation I had with him, he told me to make sure that the community here remembered his contribution and acknowledged what he did in establishing Shaare Zedek and Amek.
You felt him slowly slipping away, and you said what a loss it was to the community, to the family, of course.
When I heard that he passed away, I said to my mom, because my dad is already deceased, it's an end of an era, an end of a good era, and part of my youth died also.
We had so much more to learn from him, and so much more of life we wanted to share with him.
We were at Shalom Aleichem, and the last stanza is Tzeitchem L'Shalom, which means go in peace. But he didn't want us to say that one. He stopped us, and we stayed like that for a good half a minute.
Mi yishkan b'har kodeshecha, ulech tamim u'foel tzedek v'dover emet b'levavo. Who dwells in the mountain of your holiness? The person that is humble and works for righteousness and speaks the truth from his heart.
A school that started with 6 kids. Today, over 500 students.
Rabbi Shoham is a great example of how you could get things done.
The only reason we have the ability to move forward is because of the contributions of what people have made in the past.
I remember him as a very positive leader who believed in what he was doing, and he wouldn't be swayed from the right or to the left. He was a kind of leader that had the foresight to know what's going to happen down the road.
The magnitude of Rabbi Shoham's efforts are realized in the school today. His vision for a vibrant Jewish community in the San Fernando Valley lives on.